Okay, in one of the previous episodes, we discovered that pure progression in a counterclockwise root movement within key has probably the strongest possible pull of any kind of root movement. So now we're going to explore and we also found that that direction also has the strongest kind of pull in modulation, and it gave you a technique to where you can literally pivot chord modulate without even knowing what the pivot chord has in common with the next key. So this version, we're going the opposite direction, clockwise. We're still going to use this kind of cheating method. So we're just going to go clockwise root movement. You notice it still works out pretty well. I'm not going to go all the way through the circle of fifths, but just this plain root movement like this works out really well. And except for a few cases, and I'm going to point these out. Dominant chains work super well counterclockwise, okay? However, clockwise, they break down. You hear that? And it breaks down because flat 7 kind of chords have that tendency for that flat 7 to want to go downwards. And it's not doing that when we're going in a clockwise direction. So dominant bass chords, I'm just going to play in a counterclockwise direction. Natural flow. Okay. Very natural sounding flow. You do the same. Let's do the same thing. I did dominant 9ths and dominant 11ths. Let's go the opposite way. Broke down. Okay. Interesting effect, but it broke down. Let's do it again. Keep going. Okay. So it actually, and I used a dominant flat 9 there, it actually starts to sound unpredictable and almost unstable. So now let's go in the opposite direction again. Natural flow. So if you just remember that flat 7 kind of chords usually work better in a counterclockwise way. Not all the time, I'm just saying as general. So counterclockwise with like major 7ths works out really well as well. In a clockwise direction has a really nice effect though with a major 7th. It's usually because you could use it as a common tone between the two chords, okay? So it's a very lovely sound. So it doesn't flow as naturally, but so let's just make it musical. Now let's switch to flat 7 chords and go the opposite direction. I just needed to find a way to end it. So if you remember this, the counterclockwise direction actually kind of wants to drive you home as the destination. But this is also, again, this is not a substitute for memorization of common chords when you're pivoting. So what other things can we do? With this, we could literally just jump from one to the other and consider it Lydian, Lydian, Lydian. So the film score kind of guys would be into doing this because you can move Lydian around very easy. So I'm just going to leave it there. These are purely demonstration reasons. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a modulation going counterclockwise, then clockwise. We'll go to C, we'll go to F, we'll just pick F, B minor, F, C, G minor, D. Clockwise, or counterclockwise, clockwise, okay? So you could use this as a cheat method to modulate. Without having any clue of what pivot chords you're using, okay? So let's make that musical. And it works out fine, okay? So I wrote out one thing we could do here. We can switch between, in clockwise direction, we can switch between a C minor to a G, D minor, A, and it's almost pretty much foolproof, like the previous video where we went clockwise. Use clockwise moves to modulate, okay? Literally, this is hard to fail on with this particular sequence. So I'd probably find a little bit better way to end that. Maybe do something like. Remember, you don't want to do a continuous modulation thing forever that's using the same harmonic sequence. So maybe just find a little bit more pleasing way to end it, okay? So it sounds a little bit more final. So I treated that kind of like a borrowed 4, 5, 1, and B, okay? Borrowed 4 meaning the E minor would go to F sharp major and then back to B. So it's just finding ways to end chains is a good idea, because constant never-ending chain usually, in most cases, not all cases, never usually works out well when it's just a constant same chain repeated over and over again for a really long time. So again, there's I don't, and like I said, memorize all the common chords in between keys when using circle of fifth modulation. I'm not teaching that in this. I'm just showing you how to use these, how you can use this root movement to create modulations with ease, and in a way that doesn't require you to memorize all that stuff. You can modulate right away doing this if you just look at root movement. So by looking at the circle of fifths chart, okay, you can literally just look at one related root to the other and jump to it either direction. And so just remember that, and stuff like flat 7 kind of chords, usually clockwise direction does not work out as well as counterclockwise. And even major 7s are a little bit stronger in the counterclockwise direction, and a little bit less strong in the clockwise direction. And remember this also, when you want to have that feeling of like returning strongly to a home plate, use the counterclockwise direction. So here's another cheat method you could use to modulate without knowing which pivot chord you're using. So